Thank you for tuning in to our Invest Palm Beach Launch Conference. You're about to watch panel number 2, Prioritizing Education, How Palm Beach Leaders Are Training the Workforce of Tomorrow. Enjoy. So continuing the conversation, obviously we can't grow the economy unless we have a workforce in general and a prepared workforce, right? And that doesn't just start from university or college. That really starts from much sooner, right? We want to make sure that our students are being well prepared and that they are staying here, right? Returning back. I am from New Jersey, and I remember a stat when I was growing up that we export the greatest amount of college students. And so let's not let that be here in Palm Beach, right? We want to keep people here. We want to keep them for the jobs that we're creating for the future, because we cannot grow the economy with the jobs that are needed unless we have that workforce that we so desperately need. So we have some wonderful people on this panel that are preparing that workforce of tomorrow. So I'm really looking forward to our discussion today. And so that being said, I wanted to throw it out first a question to the entire group, and maybe we'll go from right to left, ladies first, as we go across the way to answer this first question. As Palm Beach County emerges as an educational hub in Florida and in the United States, what are the defining characteristics that make the area conducive to student success at both the K through 12 and higher education levels?
All right. Well, certainly being in a part of Florida that is rapidly growing with lots of post-graduation job opportunities is a plus. As a major player in the higher education space, I think it's significant that Florida Atlantic is the most culturally, racially, ethnically diverse public university in the state of Florida. We've also been increasingly recognized for our positive effect on student social mobility and have been able to hold student debt below the national average. And those are things that students appreciate and certainly their parents appreciate and contributes to their success. I think from students in the sciences, there are robust career opportunities, certainly in healthcare, in the biotech industry, in environment, as we grow the blue economy, for example, that helps to keep students in the state and contributes to their success. And we know that about 70 to 80% of our students stay in the state of Florida after they graduate, which is good for them and certainly good for the state.
So representing the Montessori and elementary. And so I represent Rosarian Academy, which is only about a block away here. I probably should have walked, but I drove. And so the opportunities to have jobs right in our backyard and like Valerie said, to keep our kids here and present, we've been able to have the community support us as we are growing both our footprint, and we'll open new classrooms in the fall. So after 100 years of being here in West Palm Beach as a Dominican Catholic school, we're able to grow and provide that support that our business leaders talked about, having quality schools and being able to provide that education that folks are looking for when they come to Florida. So we're happy to grow as West Palm Beach grows.
Absolutely. And Ralph?
I think the other speakers do a great job of illustrating what the quality of the educational institutions from K through 12 and higher ed level, and certainly at Oxbridge, I hope that we're a part of that too. And I think we are. From a kind of a systems level, I think what's enabled a lot of the quality here, and certainly the growth of it, has been the influx of industry and the growth of it in places like finance and fintech, and to some extent biotech, and I've become a little bit more aware lately of corporate headquarters growing in the area, and that's been wonderful. And that brings in a lot of professionals and hiring of professionals who have a strong demand for good K through 12 education, and they're pushing on the independent school sector, they're pushing on the public sector, and that's just going to keep on increasing quality. The other piece of that, and I think you can look around the country, see that there's just no region with high quality K through 12 education that doesn't look like this. And this goes to my other panelist, is there's just no region without a very high quality R1 research university. Because those places like FAU, they produce great teachers, they produce great research that it has knock-on effects that produce better businesses through, I think somebody on the last panel runs a research park that does a lot of that work. They're the place that kind of agglomerate knowledge that is helping to feed that growth. And again, those professionals working in all those jobs, coming to the region to do that, they want great K through 12 education too. So I think just if you think of it from a system standpoint, just to kind of add on to what you've all said, that kind of keeps the engine going too. And that is just radically increased in the last several years. So I think it's really exciting.
Well, actually, as you mentioned, the relocations here, with relocations comes expectations of where the people who are working here are sending their kids to school. Maybe can you both comment on what those kind of conversations are like? What are the growing expectations of parents as they're relocating to Palm Beach and having the expectations through K through 12?
You want me to go first? Just gotta go up the mic, or Linda here? Go first.
So to your question, how do we prepare and what are those people looking for? The great news is we matriculate our students to Oxbridge and to FAU. So there's a nice synergy up here on the stage. What they're looking for is not only that rigor that we provide, that solid foundation, but also the soft skills of perseverance and leadership and community and service, and being able to shake somebody's hand and look them in the eye and be a public speaking and being able to present. So it's providing that the source of curriculum that's changing as our community changes, but also providing that solid foundation that as our students matriculate, they are able to compete with the best of the best, and we're preparing them for the future.
Absolutely. Ralph?
This is funny, by the way. I think I've seen Linda 4 times in the last week. So there's very tight, there's very tight collaboration between the independent schools here. That's become even tighter since COVID, since the height of the pandemic. Linda matriculates quite a few students to our schools who are some of the very top students at our school. And so I just taught a class, and we had several of your graduates in that class. So I would say that it's interesting, been interesting. There are plenty of parents with very high expectations around quality of education who are native Floridians, right? I'm a native Floridian. So, and my parents have very high expectations. But in general, the average sort of transplant here, because they're coming to jobs that have, high requirements from a sort of educational standpoint, and expect the same for their kids. The average transplant wants a lot of their schools, and they tend to be coming from very strong schools, some of the considered the best independent schools in the country. And actually, because of what just happened to the boarding schools over the last 4 or 5 years, if you're familiar with that, where they struggled mightily, as you can kind of imagine, with the pandemic. A lot of them were taking their children out of boarding schools. Again, some of whom are considered the best schools even in the world, and wanting to place them back in our schools, as in the high schools. And what they by and large found is they can find just as high quality education, and even a little bit different kind here, as Linda emphasizes, a little bit more of a different focus on socio-emotional education, hand in hand with very high quality academics. But we just have more of those conversations, like, what are you offering here? Is it, just at that same level? So it's more, but it's also refreshing because it pushes us harder.
Absolutely. Valerie, I'd like to direct a question to you. Understanding that FAU's Schmidt College of Science is the second largest college in terms of enrollment, spanning 4 of FAU's campuses, partnerships continue to be a driving force, as demonstrated by the launch of the new School of Environmental, Coastal, and Ocean Sustainability. From your perspective, how are the faculty and scientists at the college forging a path to a more resilient future in research, and through training the next generation of scientists, problem solvers, and policymakers.
That was a mouthful. So our new environment school, we call it ECOS for short because it's much easier to say and remember. But that is a great example of a partnership. It was launched this past semester as a partnership between Florida Atlantic's Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institute and our College of Science, but it's open to any faculty and students from across the university and beyond. And right now we're focusing on building partnerships with external stakeholders from industry, government, NGOs to try to go after some of these major multidisciplinary, multi-institution research opportunities. The fact that South Florida was recently designated a national climate resilience tech hub should really position the region to be successful in some of these big initiatives that can help us to improve resiliency both in the region and on the globe. Student training is a key part of this whole thing, and our efforts have been focused on trying to get students early on in their undergraduate careers experience with authentic hands-on research and internship opportunities, ideally paid, so that they don't have to choose between getting some relevant, career relevant experience and getting a job to pay the bills.
To touch base on the internship experience, because I think that's always what the business community is talking about. I want someone with experience, and then the college, the university system is saying, well, we want to give them experience. We need to have the internships. How can we do a better job of that dialogue between the business community and higher education?
That is a wonderful question that we've been working on over the last year and a half. I think it's about what I think we have at the university right now is good student-facing support for students to come and talk to staff and talk about their interests in internships. Where we think we have a bottleneck that we're trying to work to solve is in the industry-facing relationships and people from the university who can, you know, reach out, or a contact person for industry folks to reach out and say, okay, we want to develop opportunities in for students in various sciences or non-sciences. So we're working on that. But if anybody's interested, please come talk to me.
Exactly. Come find Valery. You got interns. She has, sorry, you have internships. She has interns. Well, great. Let me ask Ralph a question for Oxbridge Academy. At Oxbridge Academy, recent investments include a middle school and creatively renovated spaces like the old racquetball courts into modern classrooms to accommodate more students while maintaining the same educational standards. In accommodating growth among the main challenges at the moment, is accommodating growth among the main challenges at the moment? And if so, what plans are in place to continue meeting students and community needs?
You know, those poor racquetball courts. We've been trying to do something with them for years.
Pickleball.
Well, you know, but
That's older, right?
yeah, everybody says that, but it was too late by the time. Yeah, they have this, you know, the vertical height, and so you always think, oh, you can do 2 stories. But we got to this point where too many people accepted our offer for admission, and we needed classrooms, so we just did it. And they're beautiful; they really look neat. Yes, so growth is a challenge, I think, like every independent school. We have about 56 acres, so there is room, but here's the rub, and I think most schools are grappling with this, is that, you know, and this is intuitive, right? If you use land for one thing, you can't use it for another. And we also want to balance growth for admission with growth, with program growth, because you want to have traditions in your school and to have, you know, always do what you've been doing at a high level, but you also always want to be doing new and different things, to be kind of continually creating this more and more delightful service for your students, to always be changing in better ways. And we also have some very clear needs too. We want to expand our athletic facilities because we've got some more demand and some sports that take up space, like baseball and volleyball and things like that. And we could use a new arts facility. So it's timely. We just finished a strategic planning process. We're starting a tactical plan and doing a site plan, facilities master plan, to look at all of these contingencies. But I'll end by just saying that I think that every school in the region is in a space right now where more so than ever, they're in a sort of contingent space analysis. They're looking at, every little space as to what are the 2, 3, 4 possibilities. And if I make a move, that's a very big one. It means I'm giving up a chance to create seats or classrooms for something else. So I'm not giving away what we're doing, but I'm just telling you where the decisions come from.
Absolutely. And Linda, while there is always a degree of uncertainty on the specifics of the jobs of the future, Rosarian has placed a great emphasis on STEM skills and training in addition to students being inquisitive and forward-thinking. From your perspective, what are the key priorities in preparing students as they move into higher education and pursue careers in a rapidly evolving industries?
So thank you. Great question. We partnered with Carnegie Mellon and Carnegie Mellon Science Museum 6 years ago. And what that looked like is that we had both the university come and train our teachers, and we went to Carnegie Mellon. And our students start in kindergarten learning to code. And in middle school, they use a program through Carnegie Mellon called CS Academy, where they learn Python and they code at 26 different levels all the way through high school levels. But the coding and the STEM are just tools, right? They're tools to enhance them to be able to be forward thinking and be inquisitive and to be learners that are moving forward. We have 6 robotics teams, 2nd grade through 8th grade, that compete, and we're also teaching teamwork in a different venue than just on the sports field. So we're allowing these kids to learn in their modality of learning to support the jobs that we don't even know what they're going to look like in the future. And so we want to make sure that we are giving them the skills that they might need in the future, because coding is really looking for answers along the way. And it's just another language to do that in.
I can't believe they're learning to code so young. To wrap up the conversation, I want to throw out a question for all of my panelists to answer. Tying everything together and looking towards the next 5 years in Palm Beach, what examples of progress would you like to see from the students today in 2030? Valerie, would you like to start?
Well, I'm not sure this is specific to Palm Beach, but certainly, and building on what you said, which I think is fabulous, students need to be better able to manage and interpret huge amounts of data and information, because that's just going to continue. We see it now, it's growing. I think they're going to certainly have to be fluent in AI, as are their professors, work in progress. And finally, I think they have to be what I might call sufficiently skeptical as it becomes more and more difficult, partly given the advances in the technology, to tell the difference between what's real and what isn't.
Do you want me to go next?
Yes, please.
All right.
Yes,
So I'm going to piggyback on what you said, but our students are everything from 1 year old to 8th graders. So we're not preparing the kids for 2030. We're really preparing them for 2060, right? That's going to be their sweet spot. So what does that look like? And the jobs that we're preparing them for, speaking of AI, we don't even know what those are going to look like. So we're trying to make sure that we give them the critical thinking. So students need to have advanced critical thinking. They need to have digital competency and technological competency. They have to have that entrepreneurial spirit to persevere, to make mistakes, and to continue and have leadership. And finally, they have to have cultural and global awareness, because they're not going to be competing with the person next to them for that job. They're going to be competing with someone across the country or across the world. So we're trying to prepare them for what we don't even know is in their future. But if we teach them to think and to learn, and it's okay to make mistakes and learn from them, we're preparing them for hopefully what will be, they'll meet with great success.
That critical thinking piece is huge, huge.
Ralph?
I agree with everything came before. I just finished teaching an AI class, and we've been doing that for 5 years, and it was really rewarding. I'll go in a little bit different direction just because of everything came before. By 2030, I would like to see huge advances in mental health. We've had a really, and I know you can all agree, I'm not like springing anything on you. We've had a tough many years, but also if you talk to heads of school, and I've been doing this for about a decade, it didn't start with COVID. It's probably been about 20 years where you've seen some significant, not stunning statistically. It's not as much as the press usually makes it out to be, but some significant increases in clinical depression, clinical anxiety, and other mental illnesses. And it affects learning, it affects self-esteem, it affects just a lot of day-to-day things, and it can lead to worse outcomes. And just when it comes down to it, is that kids do not deserve to go through that, at least no more than just at a normal level when they're under good care. And one of the challenges in this region, partly because it's booming, this is one of the side effects, is there's a huge shortage of child psychiatrists and child psychologists. Anybody here who's had a kid who needs one knows this. And when I went back to having a good R1 university, the better they are, the more there's going to be. Because when you have good teaching hospitals, you'll have more of those because they have good training, and more of those people stay in the region. So I grew up in Gainesville, the University of Florida is in Shands, and plenty there. So because of those sort of, again, agglomeration effects. But just go back to mental health. We're doing some things around that. We're creating some more integrated systems to address some issues around comorbidity, which by that I mean things like about 60% of the kids who have diagnosed learning disabilities also have mental health illnesses, at least at some point during a given year. And, that's just an easy one to break off. Having just more integrated systems that address that very fact and make sure they've got good integrated care where we're sharing knowledge and sharing services. Also, a lot of these kids have physical ailments when they're athletes. And so they need some, we need to make sure that that's all coordinated. And we have a really good health and wellness center that can help address that. So we're bringing all of that under one umbrella. That's a little bit of a spoiler. And just trying to get at some of these things, because again, and we're also doing some, just I'll end by saying, we're doing some work with the JED Foundation, which is a suicide prevention nonprofit, and also mental health, just sort of, they work on just general mental health issues in school. And we're doing some work with them over a 3-year period. And so I'm actually quite optimistic about this. I think there's going to be huge advances in this over the next several years. There's a lot of awareness. A lot of schools are doing great things in it. But if we can make, big gains in that by 2030, I think so many of the things that they've talked about, which are massive, massive important things from a learning standpoint, will be a lot easier to do.
Well, while there might be big challenges, I'm happy that we have some wonderful leaders at the helm here. You've given us a lot to think about. Thank you very much. Please thank panel number 2.